Before we get started, tell me where you're watching from. If you believe that serving your country doesn't have an expiration date, hit like and subscribe. Because the story you're about to hear should never happen to anyone who's ever wore a uniform. His name was Jack Mallory, Jack to those who knew him well. On a quiet Wednesday morning, he wasn't looking for attention or trying to boast about old battles. He just wanted to take out some money from an old bank account, an account he hadn't touched in years, but one where he had deposited his hazard pay for missions that the government still didn't fully recognize. Jack entered the main branch of Harborview Credit Union like any other customer, steady and calm, hat in hand. The hat was a faded navy blue cap, embroidered with Cold War veteran. He had carefully brushed it off before leaving home. His shirt was neatly pressed, but worn at the sleeves. In his coat pocket, he carried a folded veteran ID card, 2 weathered discharge papers, and a small bronze challenge coin, its edges rounded from years of handling. He stood patiently in line, quiet like many from his generation do, respecting the order of things. But the moment he reached the teller's window, everything changed. The teller, a young woman in her mid-20s, paused when she saw the name on his account. Her expression tightened with uncertainty. Jack handed over his ID with a slight shake in his hands, not from fear, but from the toll time had taken on him and the harsh nights he'd endured in places most people never heard of. "I just want to withdraw some money," Jack said politely. "This account's under Jack Mallory. It's been a long time." The teller gave a small, forced smile and started typing, then stopped. Something didn't add up. She called over her supervisor, a man named Curtis, a slick-haired guy with a cheap tie and a smirk that didn't need words to be rude. Curtis examined Jack's papers and then looked at him with a mocking laugh. "You sure this is your account, sir?" he said, dragging out "sir" like it was a joke. "These discharge papers look like they were typed on a typewriter from the Stone Age." The teller chuckled nervously. Jack said nothing. He slowly reached into his coat pocket and placed a brass coin on the counter. It was embossed with a fierce eagle and 7 stars, a symbol no ordinary person would understand, but any true veteran would recognize immediately. Curtis barely glanced at it. "Cheap souvenir," he sneered. "Anyone can buy those online now." Then he motioned to the security guard. "Escort this fake out. We don't need imposters clogging up the system." The guard hesitated briefly, enough for Jack to hear the insult and for the whole bank to notice. A few customers snickered quietly behind their phones. Others pretended not to hear. Jack didn't argue. He just slipped the coin back into his pocket, nodded once, and walked slowly to a bench near the window. There he sat, hands folded, eyes looking nowhere in particular. The laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy silence, a silence colder than guilt, more like discomfort. It was as if people suddenly questioned what they thought they knew. But one person did not laugh. Her name was Ana Morales, early 30s, a former logistics officer in the Air Guard, now working in private defense consulting. She recognized the coin immediately. She'd seen one just like it when a retired colonel from Special Forces had once visited her unit. The whole room had stood at attention when he placed it on the table. Ana walked over to the counter and stared down Curtis. "You made a mistake," she said quietly but firmly. Curtis blinked, confused. "Excuse me, that man at the bench is no fraud. That coin alone means more than every paycheck in this building combined." Curtis scoffed. "If he's so important, why isn't anyone with him?" Ana said nothing. She stepped outside and made a call. Meanwhile, in a back office, an older employee, one of those quiet veterans who'd worked there forever, had overheard the name Jack Mallory. He paused, then walked over to a brass plaque on the wall. The plaque honored the original founders of Harborview Credit Union, built on the site of an old military base. Among the engraved names was one that hadn't faded, J.C. Mallory, the man who'd overseen the base's operations decades ago, before the property was converted for civilian use. The employee picked up the phone and dialed a number only a few knew by heart. "It's the Eagle coin. Harborview. He's here." Outside, Jack sat motionless, watching the breeze flutter the flag across the street. He didn't reach for his phone or complain. He just waited. That's what men like him did. They waited, even when nobody believed them, even while the world laughed. What nobody at the bank knew was that less than an hour away, A furious general had slammed down his phone, thrown on his dress uniform, and was already heading toward the bank. The general wasn't just angry. He was determined to make sure Jack Mallory, the man they called a fraud, would never be dismissed again. Back at the credit union, the atmosphere grew heavier. The teller who had laughed now kept her head down, pretending to type. Curtis paced behind the counter, stealing nervous glances at the door. Jack remained seated, steady as ever, hands resting on his cane, shoulders straight despite the years. He didn't speak of the pain he carried, nor did he reveal the meaning behind the coin tucked away in his coat pocket. Anna watched him from across the room, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. She had already contacted a retired general she knew. Yes, he's there. Don't let him leave. 2 blocks away, a black SUV flashed through traffic with lights on briefly to signal authority. Inside was Major General Thomas Reed, a decorated, feared officer who held one of the highest security clearances in the military. When Reed heard the name Jack Mallory, he stopped mid-briefing, stood up, and ordered his aide. Get ready. We're leaving now. To Reed, Mallory wasn't just a name in a file. He was the reason Reed had stars on his shoulders, a living legend thought long gone. The fact that Jack had been publicly humiliated on land he once commanded ignited a fire in the general that few had seen before. At the credit union, Jack adjusted his coat sleeve. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the quiet air. A customer near the coffee machine left awkwardly, avoiding the teller. A guard shifted uneasily near the exit. Curtis muttered to himself, "He's still here," probably hoping someone posts about it online for donations. Veterans do that all the time. Anna clenched her jaw. Even the young teller lowered her eyes. This had gone too far. Curtis smirked. "I should have called the cops already. It's just a matter of time before he causes a scene." But just then, the glass doors swung open with authority. Not a breeze, not a customer, but a command. Boots hit the floor with steady, deliberate steps. Major General Reed entered in full dress uniform, every ribbon polished, every crease sharp. His presence filled the room before he even spoke. Behind him, his aide followed silently, briefcase in hand. The room fell silent. Phones were hung up mid-call. Coffee was left unfinished. Curtis looked up and froze. His smirk disappeared. Reed's eyes locked on the bench where Jack sat. Without a word, the general snapped to attention and saluted. The sharp sound of his palm hitting his forehead echoed louder than any apology could. Jack looked up, surprised, then returned the salute with quiet dignity. General Reed faced the room and asked, "Who called Colonel Jack Mallory a fraud?" Silence answered him. Reed explained Mallory's key role in elite reconnaissance, spanning 2 wars and secret missions. Curtis stammered about the old papers, but Reed cut him off. He earned every line. Reed's aide revealed classified files, a commemorative coin, and a plaque with Mallory's name. The credit union existed because of his work. Reed apologized for the oversight. Jack said he only needed money for his grandson's tuition. Reed nodded, and together they approached the counter. Laughter vanished. Respect filled the room. After withdrawing funds, Reed stopped Jack. 5 minutes for the honor you never asked for. Everyone saluted. Reed gave Jack a coin saying, "Service beyond record." Jack nodded. "I came to keep a promise." Days later, a plaque read, "Jack C. Mallory, Colonel, U.S. Army. Honor in silence."